Hello, Mackie here. And if you noticed, there's a little bit of change in the wallpaper. That means that the midseason invitation is over. And sadly, this is also the last episode of the midseason madness for this year, 2025. But to say it was a fun tournament, it's probably the most, you know, the understatement of the entire year. I personally enjoyed all the matches. Well, not all the matches, of course. We'll get to some of them in my sect in terms of my thoughts and everything. But I think this is probably the very first tournament that I can go and watch like every single game from like the beginning. I never got to watch. I never go on. I never like wake up and then like watch highlights. I never like go to VODs or anything. I just like 2 p.m. there's a game, 7 p.m. there's a game, and I watch like every single game. I watch like every single game, which is like the second time that I get to do this since like Worlds 2022. And the fact that, in a place that pretty much haven't have a League of Legends in a while, like Toronto was supposed to have a League of Legends international event, but unfortunately COVID have them. So for Vancouver to have this event and for this to have so much people and so much viewership. The final count of viewership in MSI was 3.4 million, which is the highest ever rated viewership of all time. Which goes to show you that, well, everybody knows the reason, but North America do really put up a pretty good international tournament sometimes. And yes, maybe this is just a like embarrassment L to North America and their region, of course, not producing well in terms of internationally. But because you can produce it well internationally in League of Legends doesn't mean you can put up a decent event, and it shows. Now, the next time North America will ever enter an event will be in LTA North or the LTA Conference Finals in Dallas, and I hope that will be a huge event. It will. I hope that so many people will show up to that event and represent their team as well. The same way as MSI. Although you can say that MSI is a different breed than the LTA, but I think it shows that people are interested in League of Legends, even if their region is not doing well. And I believe that you know more tournaments like this in North America is going to be healthy for the ecosystem. And so I'm asking, and listen, this I know this is not a me asking, right? But of course, we got Worlds coming up in 2026, along with the World Cup and everything. So I hope that everybody will have to like text and tweet and all this kind of stuff and just like go out there and just like make this tournament fun for yourself and everything else. Okay, that was just me rambling about like, North America hosting and all kind of stuff and viewership. So let's just go to them. So the mid-season invitation is over and I have some thoughts about it. I'm gonna go to some different thoughts. I'm not gonna go to like individual games. Like that will bore everybody to death. I will be like spending the last 50 minutes about it. So instead of just talking about each game and each individual matchup and individuals, but we'll talk about individuals. I want to give my thoughts about this entire MSI experience from what I've learned, from what everybody learning, and what many people are talking about right now. And I decided to jot them down in the notes. So that means, you know, I'm going to share this all with you. So these are my thoughts about MSI 2025, all the post MSI thoughts, and what am I looking forward to going to Worlds. So after this, I'm going to talk to you about Worlds and everything like that. So let's just go through them, shall we? The first team I want to talk about is Anyone's Legend. Now, yes, I will talk about Gen G, the winners, but we'll go to Anyone's Legends first. We're going to go from third to second and then first, and then we'll go to the rest of the tournaments, of course. Anyone's Legends have some flaws, but are the best team in China. I think this is pretty much true. I think Anyone's Legends have showed that they are a really good team. The problem with that team is that they have not been, clutch, to say the least. They have not showed up and have that big, incredible, series that makes it feel like they are there. Now, being third place in a league, in third place in MSI in a tournament that is so competitive, and losing to Genji, losing to T1, it's not that horrible. And being the absolute living of BLG, the dying carcass of the LPL team, it's also not as bad as well. So I believe that third place is a pretty good result. And I think Tabe is probably the GOAT coach for making that team really click. And Shanks. Woo! Shanks is probably my best mid laner for LPL right now. I'm going to say this right off the top of the bat. I believe that Shanks is probably the best player, better player than Cream in his debut season of MSI. When everybody's talking about Cream being well, he didn't have a good performance, and it like carried on throughout all of his LPL seasons, including with Top Esports. I think right now Shanks is looking pretty good, and if he can keep this up, and if he can keep his raw mechanics up, diversify his champion pool, of course, and of course, play decently well, then I will say that he could be one of the best mid laners in China for the next 2-3 more years if he develops. Tarzan already got the monkey off his back finally with an international tournament, and he performed pretty well. I think I think he's also my favorite player to look forward to. I think the balling have some issues, but I think that could be fixed. And Game 5 of that T1 series was kind of like the most. I can see what you're trying to do, Tabe. I can see the planning, of course, with the Game 5 draft against T1, but the execution was kind of like not so great. And that hurts them. That really hurts them in that 5-game series. But when you face off against T1 of all teams, you know, losing to them is not not that as bad. But the way it ended and the way all this ended, and after pushing yourself and nearly beat them, mind you, it makes this whole situation feels totally bad for them. And if you're anyone, and if you listen, I'm not a big AL fan, of course, but if I were an AL fan, I will seriously root for this team to do well in LPL next split. Because right now we got so many things that are going on in the LPL with Top Esports making changes, JDG making changes. We don't know what BLG is gonna be like. What will they do with Beizhuang, or what will they do skill wise? But the Anyone's Legend right now, if the coach, if Tabe can keep making this team develop, and if Anyone's Legend can I'm not saying elevate their level, but also be decent enough to conquer all of China again, I believe they can win LPL again. I think they have now established themselves. They finished second in Winter Split, or the first split. They finished top in the LPL. They finished now third. So now they're legit contenders to be the best team in all of China. The question is, are they the best team in the world? That is a hard question. Consider that as of this moment, Korea are the kings of international tournament for the last 7 international tournaments in a row, dating back to what JDG did in 2023 MSI. Since then, it was all Korea in the last couple of tournaments. So I believe, to be honest, I believe that Anyone's Legends are good enough to compete domestically, but most importantly, compete in an international stage. And I think they can do well. Maybe they're going to win worlds. Who knows? You're never gonna see past them, but that's gonna be my opinion. So I think Anyone's Legends look like a pretty good, decent team, a pretty good third place team, and I think they worth it. Now, I need to talk about T1 because I think Jamada said it in the Power Spike podcast that I watched, and I think it's whole true. So I'm gonna be looking in the camera to all the T1 fans who are probably gonna watch this video and tell you this. Let us remember, so T1, and I'm gonna say this in the most sane possible narrative you can imagine. Your team has went through the whole Duran Zeus situation. In fact, you went through the whole Zeus situation, looking absolutely worse than you were pretty much into it. You could have kept the team that have won 2 world championships back to back, but you didn't. You screw up Zeus in the most comical of all ways, and you did it for commercial purposes, and you greeted yourself out, and now you lost probably the best player to your rival team, Life Esports. Okay, that's just the first one. The second one is the whole Gumayusi smash situation, in which Gumayusi had not played decently well. You put in Smash as a rookie, and then you're thinking to yourself, Smash have been better. Smash is going to be our winter fans, but because of the fans, because of all the fan sentiment that's going on, and having their butt feelings hurt, instead of Joe Marsh being like the bigger man and just like, no, smash in. You decided to listen to the fans and put Gumayusi back in. Now, he played decently well in the rest of the tournament, and Duran like elevated up. He stepped up in big moments, of course. But, and I said, but that still doesn't mean that your team is better than your Gen Gs of the world or Life Esports. So you're going in as probably the third best team in all of those teams. Everybody was pinned. Everybody thought that, yes, Life Esports kind of collapsed against Gen G, but everybody, including myself, thinking Life Esports should beat T1 off the bat. And in a similar situation, just like PSG versus Chelsea in the Club World Cup yesterday, T1 smashed them. Surprising to me, surprising to everybody else. They now go to MSI. Okay. I think in my rank, let me just look at my rankings, my mid-season rankings, in case anybody knows. So let me just do my mid-season rankings. So in my mid-season rankings, I have T1 as probably the fifth best team. Now there was a lot of complaint. I think they may have a point to saying I should have just bumped T1 a little bit up, but I put them below BLG and below G2 because yes, G2 has some flaws, but we know how good they are when it comes to international tournaments, especially Cavs and Broken Blade and Hansama. I thought that the veterancy and the raw experience of G2 can actually carry them, and turns out I was wrong. I was thinking to ourselves of BLG with all the big name teams, and Snide and Elk and Bin and all kinds of stuff can perform well, but again, I was wrong. So there was a lot of pushback by T1 fans, and you know what? You deserve the flowers. I was wrong about the ranking. I know it was on my ranking, my opinions, but hey, it is what it is. But when I put my rankings up, I would never, in my impression, that the way T1 were in MSI, I was never expected them to be a third place team. But then, of course, all the things that I said about G2 and BLG were right, and the performances were not good, to the point of like, okay, maybe T1 could be a third best team. And it shows throughout this entire MSI. Duran, he has been Duran throughout the entire tournament. He has been good in some things. He has been bad in some things. He is sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe crap kind of guy. He could be good in some. Well, you get the point. So Duran, it's not. Duran has been up and down. Owner, he has been good. I said Owner has been a pretty good play. Has been pretty decent. He has been pretty good. I think he's probably the best Xinjiao player in probably all the tournament. I think. Oh, one last piece of thing about AL. That Tarzan Jarvan game was nutty. Just a little mention about it. Owner is really good. Faker, this is a hard one. Well, let's just say this. Faker did what you expect from an okay player. He got some big moments. He was fine. But the problem is that many people would like to see Faker be an absolute clutch when it matters the most, and he's not that kind of guy anymore. Which is like Djokovic right now playing tennis with Sinner Alcaraz. He's not that kind of anymore against younger, but also more hands brilliance and more clutch than he is. Now, in terms of like he can perform the big play when it matters the most, that's fine. Great. Here is the problem. Here is the kicker that many people wanted to say. He's just not that guy anymore. And it hurts. I know it hurts your feelings, but that is true. He can put up some decent performances. He can put up some fine numbers, but he's not going to be like the guy who can win you the game. And yes, his brain mechanics are good. And yes, he can pull up something, but he is not the reason why this team is doing well. That goes to the bot lane, in which Gumi usually did an okay performance. He did pretty good in most of them, especially the Jinx game, of course. But it has to go to Keria. Now, half T1 would have won MSI. I said Keria was my player of the tournament. That Renata Glass Game 3 against Gen G was the stuff of legends. And I did actually pull up a meme. I put it on Twitter. And it made the rounds on Twitter, by the way, to some people. But it did make the rounds on Twitter. And it was absolutely funny. This is the class. And by the way, this is the classic Simpsons head knocked, this is Keria slapping every support at MSI and saying, that's how you play Renata Glass. Keria is just different, man. In fact, I have to say this right now. Keria is probably the only reason. Well, he's not the only reason. But he is probably the reason why T1 were in the finals. Not Faker's clutchness. Not Duran having an incredible play sometimes. In fact, I think Duran was the reason. I think Duran was the single reason why they lost the first series against Gen G. The ulti to Tom Kench. What are you doing? What are you doing, Karen? Duran? The fact that you're actually winning the game and for that to happen? Then again, consider how Gen G's comp is the protect the president of ruler. Was it the first game or the last game? Let me just see. Let me just do my research. I think it was the last game. But the point is that, yeah, Gen G, T1 was carried by Keria by a mile. So was it the first time they happened? I think this is the first time. This is the first game. Yes. This was game 5. And it's like T1 has done so well so early. Komiuchi getting cash in, Duran getting the kills, everybody thinking that T1 winning until you look at the back of the brain and must be feeling like, I think Gen G got this. I mean, look at it's all about, saving the top. It's all about, protecting the Jings and all that kind of stuff. And they did. They did pretty much amazing. And the steal on that Drake in that game was probably the most unconsciously the biggest play of the entire game. But Duran made the absolute int play that really symbolizes his entire career, especially international, of him being good in some places, but not good enough to he could be like, he can win you a game and then lose you the game in an instant. That's what makes it frustrating. But I believe that Keria is my favorite player right now on this team. I think he's been already the most dominant player on the team, which is why I put him as the GOAT support. Yeah, he is the GOAT of support. Pretty much simple. He can play with virtually any support champion. He can play decently well with any support champion, and he can be the catalyst for this whole team. So to see Keria perform pretty well on this T1 team, and let's be honest, support has never, and I mean never, get the recognition they deserve in mostly international tournaments, or maybe domestically, of course. But I think Keria is a special player, and for him to pop off like that for this T1 team and being the reason why they're in the finals, but they're one game away from winning the whole thing, it's something to be amazing. And I think the narrative of this T1 team is just way too much. I already explained the narrative of this team. Like, guys, listen, your team was going through so much crap. By their faults, of course. Their T1 did this to themselves. But they've gone through so much crap. Everybody was expecting them to be the third best team. Beat Hanalife Esports when everybody was expecting that it would be Gen G, Hanalife Esports all the way. Almost lost the CFO. Here's the little thought. You guys lost the APAC. Like, T1 losing to APAC would be the most embarrassing thing happen. It would be like that. Listen, Europe is already embarrassed by a mile. But if T1 were to lose to CFO, they would lost their entire goddamn brains for the next week. Trust me, I said this. So you nearly lost to CFO. You destroyed BLG, which, let's be honest, BLG should have been destroyed after the FlyQuest series. or should have been destroyed by FlyQuest. We'll get to that later. Then you lost to Gen G the first time around. Good series, but cool. And then you scraped by AL, who put up some decent performances, and unfortunately one bad draft by AL. Again, we'll get to that later. And then you lost to Gen G in a, I guess, a comp in Game 5 that I was thinking there is no way that Gen G won it. I was like, hell no, Gen G would have won this game with that comp. No way they can beat T1 with a Miss Fortune and a Pike and a Nidalee of all things. Like, what? And Aatrox. Like, what? How? So, if you're a T1, and I'm going to go sane T1 fan, the same T1 fan, I'm going to do this for the same T1 fans, I believe this is a pretty good run. Nobody was expecting you to do much at MSI. Nobody was expecting you to snatch the finals position from NHLE. Nobody was expected you to be in the finals. But you did, and I believe that clearly symbolizes that Korea is that we have three best teams in Korea. Gen G, Hanwha Life Esports, and T1. No one is close. Not even close. And by the way, Gen G's win also confirmed them as the first team in Worlds, so there's that going. And pretty much solidifies there's four teams in LCK and LPL, which is kind of not surprising. Which I feel like the whole narrative is kind of like run by the fans. It almost feels like the fans of T1 is the ones that run the narrative. And it's just like T1, and I mentioned this on my shorts, are ruining League of Legends for us because of the fans and because they're like, if they would just step back and look at their run and consider where they were, they would have been fine with that. They would have been like, yeah, T1 made it all through, and they did what they needed to do. They did the simplest things. They are the team like the Kansas City Chiefs, are the teams that not beat up themselves with dumb mistakes and all kinds of stuff. They let the other team beat themselves, like Hanwha Life Esports, and probably like CFO in Game 5s. But the problem is, and this is pretty much the problem, is that T1 did not give me any kind of flashiness to make me feel like they're a good team. Gen G has that in spades. And anyone's legend is good in some cases. T1 play, the composition that got them there. The simple composition, the meat and potatoes of the composition that got them there. And I think, the fact they're in the finals, consider like everything they've gone through, should be admirable. Admirable to the coaching staff, admirable to the psychiatrists, admirable to the team. But because of fan narrative, we never get to like appreciate that for what it is. Just because you cannot appreciate that doesn't mean I can't. So I believe that T1's run should be respected and should be talked about a little more, despite all the BS that is going on with the fan narrative and all that stuff. It should be celebrated and be talked about. So I believe that I feel like we might have seen our T1 winning Worlds, I guess. But T1 playing decently well, no questions asked. I think maybe they shouldn't fix Duran, but you're stuck with him. You're pretty much your self-sabotaging of Zeus has pretty much giving you the biggest punishment ever, which is Duran. Which it is what it is. But I think Kyria is going to be absolutely smurfing in LCK, of course. Now, let's talk about Gen G. Gen G played their worst style of league and still won. Now, when you think of Gen G when you think of Gen G in LCK, what do you come to mind? Slow, grinding, pushing lanes, getting objectives, slow, boring kind of League of Legends in Korea. Which it's not something that is good, but it got them success. It's the most successful and the most executional way it is possible. And then Gen G, throughout the entire tournament, did the complete opposite. To which, by the way, I was thinking Gen G should be like the dominant team. Too bad. Went over. They lost 7 games when I thought they should lose less than 5. And the problem was that most of the games they played are not like Gen G-esque. They were going for Anacon when they should have to. They were going for objectives. They were going for team fights. And they're like, guys, you're the brain team. You're the smart team. You're not supposed to be like being aggressive or being a team fight situation. They're better than this. The fact they actually won makes it even more weird to say that if Gen G played their absolute worst League of Legends, in their opinion, worst in terms of gameplays and style and all kind of stuff, what will happen to Gen G if they go on to play their best? They would have won everything. They would have clapped them everybody. And you pretty much caught Gen G pretty much playing their worst brand of league for only one big tournament. You are not going to get, listen, I swear to God, here's a kicker. You're not going to get Gen G playing like this at Worlds. Trust me. They're going to go back. They're going to clean stuff up. By the way, they have a good support. They have a really good rookie support who absolutely balled out. Like the Game 5 Pyke, just to put balls on the table, Game 5 Pyke in a crucial situation against Keria. Keria! His Pyke! Like, to absolutely smurf on that champion was amazing. To do that in a Game 5 situation was absolutely amazing from a rookie Indoro. And listen, he had big shoes to fill with all the supports that would come and go Gen G. And for him to do that, it's amazing. It's amazing for him, and he deserved some praise. Now, moving on with the Gen G situation is that Chovy is clutch. And he was clutch in Game 5, of course. But I think Ruler's the best player of the tournament. And here's my agreement. When they got Ruler, by the way, Ruler was never the same. How do I say this? He was never the same brilliant player that he was in JDG. Like, you're asking a guy who used to be one of the best players in the last 2 years to come back and be like a good player. But he hasn't. No, he hasn't. And he was pedestrian and probably the weak spot for, Gen G. Like, if I look at if we look at the player rankings, I think I have, Ruler not as high as many people think. I think I have him what? I think I have him pretty much in the C tier, along with Duro, because we don't know anything about Duro because he's a rookie. But also, Ruler has been pretty much pedestrian. And for him to make like two of the biggest clutch moments in the entire tournament, the Jinx Game 5 and then the Miss Fortune double kill. And yes, Miss Fortune, not even a Ruler champion. For him to pull those two off in those two big games was exceptional. And I think Ruler has been pretty much, he's been pretty good in this tournament. Now, I'm not going to go do stats and all kinds of stuff. Again, I'm not going to bore you with a 20-minute stat line because I don't think you guys are into boring stuff. But I think Ruler has been the best player. Yes, Chovy gets all the praise, and by the way, he won MVP of this entire tournament. And look at that damage on Aurora in the last game. Whew, amazing. But I feel like, Ruler deserves some praise as well. He was instrumental in two of the biggest wins ever. He was pretty much decent. And this is probably like return to Ruler 2023 Ruler. Not, dominant and everybody else, but for Ruler to have this kind of tournament, when everybody questioning him, is he still the best player ever? And after this drop off, for him to put up a tournament like this is going to give him so much confidence going to LCK. And now with Chovy, who is doing really well, Duro looking absolutely good in the support, having confidence, and for Ruler to gain back his confidence, it's like Gen G is gonna be a more scary team. Now, do I believe they can go on and win more, best of 5 series, more than like go 23 plus undefeated streak? I don't think so. They're going to fall off eventually. But I'll tell you this. I don't think right now, yes, Hololive Esports and T1 are kind of like the other two teams that could be good enough to chase Gen G. But right now, Gen G are like a class above the rest. The problem with this is that the T1 narrative just still's being reverberated around Gen G. Now, let me remember everybody. Gen G are a 2-time MSI champions. Only RNG SKT has ever done what Genji has done, winning back-to-back MSIs. That's a huge deal. And by the way, the MSIs of today are not the MSIs we have like years ago. It's a different tournament. It's double elimination. It's two teams from different regions. It is a stacked competitive tournament, and we have probably the most stacked competitive tournament of all time. And Genji won it, despite the fact they have not looked at themselves throughout this entire tournament, play styles and player walls and all kinds of stuff. And yet, when we come to Worlds, and Genji qualified for Worlds already, when it comes to Worlds, everybody would say that T1 are the champions, and they're going to still win Worlds until they fall off. So I said, cool, cool. But here's the kicker, guys. The only way for Genji to turn the narrative, I'm not saying all the way around, but to turn the narrative in your favor is for Chovy and his team to win Worlds. That is the only singular way to do it. I think they have the team to do it. I think they have the confidence to do it. And I don't think Chovy is not the same dominant guy. Even though he has been having a pedestrian tournament, in my opinion, I think he has a pedestrian tournament Chovy. He has not been like God tier in most of the tournaments. And Genji still won. So they haven't played their best play style, and Chovy have been pedestrian. And yet they still won the whole thing. What are you going to say right now if Chovy can elevate his game up, more, and Genji go back to this slow grinding play style that has been so good? If you're a fan right now of the League of Legends, I know most of the narratives are going to be like T1 going to win Worlds, it'll be great. But if you want to see, a player that has been working so hard to trying to, win something huge, you gotta root for Chovy and this Genji team to win Worlds. That is the only thing. For me personally, I want to see Genji win Worlds. That's right, Akeem. That's right. I'm speaking on July 14th at 10:31 p.m. recording that I said Genji are going to win Worlds. Maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe this might come back to bite me. But consider where they are right now, consider how they've done in MSI, and consider this is not their best performance. I think Genji will improve, and I think will win MSI. Or Worlds, actually. And they will get the respect they deserve. They never get respect by even the fans in Vancouver when Genji won. When Genji pulled out the clutch, there were so many silent fans watching the broadcast. I was watching the whole thing. There was so much silence that it just almost feels like it's a T1 favorite crowd. And don't get me wrong, T1 has the fan base, the aura, all the kind of stuff. But it almost feels like Genji were never going to get the respect it deserves until they actually win Worlds. And I believe that is going to be the biggest thing that's going to happen this year. Can Genji, when it matters the most, overcome the T1 narrative and actually win Worlds? Or they might have to choke and, fall back in the narrative. But Worlds going to be fun for them. We'll find out, of course, after the MSI. We'll find out over LCK. But for now, Genji is going to be a team to look forward to. Now, let's talk about Fearless Draft. And Fearless Draft has been pretty much debated, talked about over the last couple of months, from the first stand to the regular season play to now MSI, and now we're like in the 7th month of the season, and there are some divided opinions on Fearless Draft. I wrote Fearless Draft that brought out quantity but not quality. So here's the thing, what I mean. It brought out more unique champions than it is, expected. By the way, there was like 105 unique champions in this tournament alone, if I'm not correct. That was more than we have last year. And it's not like we get like the Yumis and the Zaras and the weird champs that we get it. We get like the meta champs, of course. We get the occasional metal champs in some cases. But the reason why I said quantity and not quality, it's pretty much simple. As the games go on, as we get to game 3 and game 4, and crucially, the real crux of the problem is game 5. I'm going to go top of my head. What is the most memorable game 5 you ever seen from MSI this year? Let's just see. CTBC versus T1. No, it was an absolute stump. Nothing. Let's see. BLG FlyQuest. We'll get to FlyQuest later. And it is this was brutal. This was absolutely brutal. Genji anyone's legend. Let's see. Oh, ooh. No, not even close. Not even close. I kind of remember that. Uh, the first Gen G T1 series. Okay, we started off really good, and then Duran kind of ran it, and Jinx was powerful, and that was it. T1 versus anyone's legend. Oh, okay. I mentioned the Olaf idea, and Twisted Fate 2 was not so good, and they got absolutely smoked. And once again, Jinx is protected, and nothing can do. And finally, Gen G versus T1, and oh my god, weird composition. Una get the first kill, but they never let the Caitlyn karma goes through. Miss Fortune get the two big kills. Aurora do tons of damage. Aatrox was a beast, and game was over about it was 35 minutes. It was kind of close on paper, but it wasn't. And I believe that's pretty much the thing. We didn't have a great game 5 to feel like this was a great series. We didn't have that. We got like good series and then pretty bad endings. And I believe that is going to be something that I feel like Riot could fix with like Fearless becoming a thing throughout like forever, of course. And maybe they might have to tweak the timing or kind of stuff. Maybe they might have to do something about it. But if you want to make Fearless a thing, you gotta tweak these things, because maybe it's a player issue, maybe it's a coaching issue, of course. But listen, if you're gonna make Fearless a part of the whole League of Legends system, something has to do something in order to make game fives feel like not a blowout in most cases. Because most of the game fives I watched was blowouts, was like game over around 15 to 20 minutes, and it felt like nothing. The team has no comeback. So Fearless is good. Don't get me wrong. It's sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe crap, as many people said. But it got to do something. You have to tweak it just a little bit, and it probably got to tweak it. And I don't know if you're gonna do it before Worlds or something, or maybe after Worlds. But for me personally, I think Fearless is still on the fence for me. For some people, someday they like it because of the diversity, and it creates different games and different champions, and showcase the range of, oh, this guy is not only good at one champion, he's good at 2 or 3 or 4 champions, and the others is like and says that it makes game files look bad, and they be pinch, and put the strikes on coaches and all kind of stuff. So again, still on the fence, but for now, Fearless is here to say what are you gonna do about it, and we'll find out in the next couple of months, probably after Worlds, what will they do with Fearless, and what will they do throughout the regular season, all kind of stuff. Now, I did mention about this in my first week post, and right now, the LEC should be worried about going into Worlds. I said that the LEC is not doomed, but the problem is right now it's like the only tournament that is going to determine LEC's fate. It's Worlds. That's the only be and all end all. And right now, the LEC is worried. The problem with the LEC is there are so many problems. GMing is bad, and I know what you're thinking. Format is the reason. No. Here's a kicker. GMing is bad. Tier 2 systems are not looking great. Other than Lost Ratatone, I mean, what is other than Lost Ratatone is? Tier 2 has not been like memorable in some cases. It's like I don't have I can't even watch Tier 2 to be honest. Nobody's watching Tier 2 unless you're Lost Ratatone and all kind of stuff. So Tier 2 scene is not great. There are players in Tier 2 that deserve to have like a better call up. In fact, veteran players never got the Tier 2, never got the call up of LEC and just like coast through. Like teams never got like I want to see Unicorns of Love being returned into LEC in some cases. Not saying they're gonna return to being power, but it's better than this. And talent being spread out, all kind of stuff, is another issue. There are so many issues, of course, that are going on with LEC. That, of course, I'm not gonna talk about it that much. But I will tell you this. They need to get their crap together. Or else if they do, remember, LEC nearly lost to GAM Esports. G2 nearly lost to GAM Esports and Furia. And then MCOY lost to CFO. If your region loses to APAC regions, then I swear to God, this is like where the low has never been, the bar has never said so low. Listen, if you thought Manchester United low point was last season, then LEC's low point is pretty much down the floor. To the point of like G2 better have that, bounce back pretty well. And I'm not sure. I mean, there's some people that are saying I'm not sure that Common Corp are like that thing, and I'm not sure that you know, Fnatic are. I don't think Fnatic are there. Koi, I'm not sure. So it's like again, you got to rely on like G2, maybe Common Corp to be well in Worlds, but that's just it. That's just it, and it's not. And maybe it's like worth ethic, or maybe it's like player development, or all the above. But I'm not a general manager and all that stuff. But they need some fixing, man. And if you're the executive producer, and if you're the executive person on the LEC broadcast, and you're seeing all of this right now, it is not painting a good picture on this region. It is not, and I'm gigantically worried for them. I'm gigantically worried for them. I gone to Discord with this region. I like this region a lot, and now it's like I don't know what I don't even know my region anymore. I haven't watched an LEC matchup. I haven't watched a live LEC broadcast in a while, and because of course because there are like so many games going on and sports is going on as well. But I haven't sat down and watched a live LEC broadcast. And maybe it's the production, maybe it's the lack of creativity that's going on, but that may bleed into, and maybe that may bleed into the poor performance of LEC, but it almost feels like the LEC system is so broken right now and it needs to be fixed. I don't know how, but they have to fix it. They have to fix it. And if MSI is not the wake up call that they needed, Worlds is going to be the absolute kick in the butt, send down to the Shadow Realm. That's going to really, really test their mental. If you're an LEC fan right now, and if Worlds is not good enough for them, then I think many people will tune out at LEC quicker than anything else. They may rather watch LTA at this point, or LCS or CBLOL if they actually changed that god awful name. But who knows? Speaking of LTA, FlyQuest ruined the greatest opportunity for NA ever, and I'm sure they'll ever get there. Now, here is the thing. I feel like FlyQuest missed the biggest opportunity ever. Let me set the tone. You are FlyQuest. You Inspired played probably the best series as a Western jungler you will ever have in your entire life. Inspired literally played the best series of his entire life. Probably should have won you the series by his standards. And then the problem is that nobody's going to remember Inspired incredible performance. Everybody will remember like Masu's having a shaky tournament and that game 5 misclick, of course, that cost him like XP, cost him like the massive brain fall of him. Quad playing Zillion and just not looking great. Whippo being decent, of course. And like you're Inspired, you played the best series ever, and it's just like nothing. It's just nothing. It's kind of like West Indies cricket right now. Azali Joseph put up incredible bowling figures, and it doesn't matter because the batting team sucks. That's been the problem. It's like Inspired have to literally carry this team to relevance. Either he plays well or the team falls off. And I feel like Game 5 of that series was kind of like the microcosm of NA in a whole. It's like they're close, but close will never get you close enough. And this was a horrible BLG team. This is a horrible BLG team. Probably a BLG team that is ripe for a beating. And thank God Anyone's Legend did them a favor. But they could have, listen, if they would have beat BLG, they could have beat AL, and consider how okay-ish BAL is, they could have been a top 3 team. FlyQuest had an opportunity to become a top 3 team, maybe a top 4 team in this region, and probably a top 4 team for the first time in years, and create history, and, broke the stigma of like, NA cannot win against Eastern teams. It would have broke all the stigma at once, and then Game 5 just broke my mental. It just broke every single person mental, and they have by the way, worst kill differential in the history of Game 5s at League, and to have that happen, it just feels like I did the TikTok, I did the short of me pounding the bed in frustration, because this is frustrating for me. As a guy who lived close to North America, this is pretty much frustrating to me. It's like losing. It's like pretty much like you lost Worlds for me. It's like you lost everything, man. It's like you lost your reputation, your fandom, all of it in one fell swoop. And right now, I'm just not sure if FlyQuest have an opportunity again. The Gen G series, they have no chance of winning it. I will give them slack for the Gen G series. They had no business winning it, even though, and yes, they had opportunities to win, but they couldn't. The BLG series, that's just not it. That's just not it. You had an opportunity to you've listen. I feel like Game 5 draft was bad, but it almost feels like they checkmate themselves in that fifth game, and they're like nothing you can do about it. Just nothing you can do about it. So they were painted in the corner and they got nothing to do about it, and it just shows. But half they would have been more disciplined in like game number 3. Had they would have been showing more discipline in game number 3, this series was over. The series was over. BLG were cooked at this point. A disciplined team would have been like, stay calm, don't go straight to Nexus, and just be playing decent League of Legends. And they weren't disciplined, and that hurts me most. Because FlyQuest are a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think FlyQuest and C9 are a really good team, and I think they will do well in LTA North to be like qualifying for Worlds or something. But, and I said the word but, how many opportunities does FlyQuest, or how many opportunities does an NA team has to get in order for them to finally break the class ceiling? They've been trying for so many years since Team Liquid did it in 2019. They're trying. And by the way, let's be honest. I think you're way better than EU in terms of competitiveness and your fight and your play development and all this kind of stuff. Hell, you even bring more Europeans than everybody else. So at least you got that going. But it's almost have that feeling, just like Tarzan cannot win an international tournament. When do you have to get the monkey off the back? What is the one series that make you get off the monkey off the back? And right now, the perception around everybody is like, it's doomed and they will never beat Eastern team. It's hopeless. What is the point of all this? And I say, no, they will do it. But I'm not sure they'll ever get there. I'm not sure they'll have another chance. Now, here's the thing. If they beat an Eastern team, cool. Great. That is the greatest ever achievement in NA history. It'll be the greatest ever achievement in NA history, minus MSI winning and minus winning the Worlds or something. But if they beat an Eastern team, it would be something special. It would be this most special moment ever. It would be better than changing the LTA to LCS and CBLOL, but it'd be way better, of course. Now, here's a little more diss to EU and saying that APAC looked really stronger than EU. That is true. Jam at least take games against G2. CFO won a series against Mad Lion, MCoy. I can't even say this, but the LCP is looking stronger than EU. It hurts, but it's true. And it's not just Gam and CFO being looking good. Talon can be good, of course. We got a team named Vikings, of course. Yeah, defamation. DFM fell off completely. Soft Hall Banks, they're fine. So I think LCP, maybe there's a chance that I can actually watch LCP. Maybe there could be a chance to like cover LCP. Who knows? That'll be another time, of course. But for now, it's almost have that feeling of like the APAC is back. And it hasn't been this good since like Flash Wolves years ago. That's the perception around everybody in the APAC region. It feels like finally we're getting the recognition we deserve. We won a couple of series, and we play our own style of League of Legends. Other than like EU is trying to become like Korea, and realizing that, guys, copying Korea is going to get you murdered. Sorry, can't say it in YouTube terms. It's going to get you destroyed. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. And APAC is going to play their chaotic, their credible side. And you know what? Yeah, it'll be sloppy and all kind of stuff, but it won them series. It won them games. Like, imagine GAM Esports being G2. Everybody in Europe will be tilted on the face of the earth. Tilted on the face of the earth if that happens. And if you're an APAC fan, that'll be huge. It'll be huge for them. It's huge for those region, and now it's like, the eyes of the region is looking at CFO mostly. But Gamma getting decently, Talon is getting good. It feels like right now the LCP is going to be more competitive for Worlds. Well, I feel like CFO and Gamma could be like my 2 Worlds representative, but Talon could be interested, and some other teams, of course, will be interested as well. So this MSI run for CFO lifting the APAC region back to new heights they have never seen in a long time. And for that, I feel like it's incredible. It's incredible for them, and I hope the APAC regions are watching this and knowing that, hey, welcome back. It's been a long time. Good to see you. Oh, well, we're gonna talk about champions just a little bit. TF looked bad. I was thinking Vi was going to be like the big champion pick, but I didn't. Aatrox did not get that much, although he was popping off in the finals. But it was never like the raid balls that many people think. So I lost two of my props. And Kalista, and most importantly, Kalista looked bad. Now, and Red Knight took Glass as well, but Kira was the one who actually played. The problem with Kalista is pretty much simply like she cannot kill tanks in a team fighting manner. Who knew? Who just damn knew, of course. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably the best MSI tournament of all time. And I did tweet it out to some of my people, some people, of course, saying this is the greatest ever tournament since IPL 5. Now, I did not remember IPL 5, but I heard that it's one of the greatest tournament ever. For some back in my days, people, you know, the old people that said that IPL 5 is best. In terms of like, we got 9 silver scrapes. 9. If you put the current situation in the world, it will not even come close to what MSI have done. And yes, the game 5s have not been memorable, but the fact we have so many game 5s, so many, especially in the play-ins, just showcase so much quality within the teams, so much diversity, of course, with the fearless and all kind of stuff. But also, so much fun series, so much fun matches. Every match was memorable, of course. Every single one. Like, you have to go back to the very, very, very first matchup. By the way, this is day 1. Furia clapped G2 in game freaking 1 of the MSI. And then let's be honest, we were off to the races with this whole MSI thing. And let's be honest, the most boring games were mostly BLG games. Like, mostly BLG games are kind of like boring. In fact, BLG has been responsible for like 4 of the 4 stumps in this tournament. In fact, there were 5 stumps in this entire tournament, 4 which go to BLG. And 2 of them were losses. 2 wins were against GAM Esports and G2 in the play-ins. And that was the worst G2 team we've seen pretty much ever. So it did not, elevate my status about BLG. But then after losing to T1 and then it was Legend, it pretty much confirmed that BLG are a horrible team. And they'll have to make some changes, a lot of changes. And the other, of course, was like Flag was pretty much bury G2, give G2 a shovel and just bury themselves 6 feet under. And that sucks. So, but if we zoom out just a little bit, 9 silver scrapes, 3 million viewers, and so much hours being watched, and so many narratives, so many great plays, so many misplays, so many stories, so many incredible moments, heartbreak, joy, romance, all these kind of stuff. It makes MSI 2025 one of the best tournaments of all time, and probably one of the best MSI tournaments ever. Because let's be honest, I do not think because of the quality we have right now that no MSI tournaments will beat them. The only thing that'll make the MSI tournament incredible is like we get 10 silver scrapes and a North American team winning it. But that would be far-fetched for me. So, that being said, I think that concludes this coverage of the mid-season madness. And of course, the mid-season invitational. Now, of course, as we all know, there's another tournament called the Esports World Cup. Or we call it the Riyadh Risley tournament. I'm just trying to come up with a clever name, and it fails, of course. But in terms of everybody else, yeah. Other than that, the regular season of League of Legends is upon us. LPL is coming up soon, which means regular season League of Legends is back, and maybe more other stuff. And I don't know, man. I'm going to try my best to talk about all the different league legends, but I'm not going to do like one by one. I'm going to go through each and every league in terms of narrative, talking about it in different weeks. So to talk about it. So that'll be fun for me. And also keep following my TikTok and all good stuff. TikTok, my YouTube shorts, because my numbers on YouTube shorts is not bad. 1K viewership, 800 viewership. There are way more viewership watching my shorts than pretty much my videos. So that showcases that short form content does work, Hakeem. Turns out it can. So watch out for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this year's Midseason Madness. And that concludes my video. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe and comment and all that kind of stuff. Thank you everybody who's enjoyed the midseason invitational, all my crazy rants and all my predictions and all kind of stuff. Thank you all for doing this right now. And on behalf of each and every one, walk good in the Lord, drive home safely, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.